August 15th. That has not changed. Uh, Now the revenues, we're going to see those today where those new revenue sections are going to change a little bit now that we've got the actual numbers from the county. And so you're going to see the new tax page as well as the budget for those. And then we'll go over some recommended suggestions that we're proposing to go along with those. If you have any questions on the budget stuff, of course we've got that. We can go over the previous stuff as well. But I'm going to go through this packet, kind of walk you through the different phases and different things that we've done to kind of explain it. And so if you'll turn to your first page in your budget there, if you'll remember, on August 20th, the council approved a 76.5 tax rate, or a proposed tax rate. That hearing for that tax rate is scheduled for September 17th, which is during our regular council meeting this month, where we will also, adopt the budget and so forth, the tax rate, the levy, the M&O rate, the debt rate, all that'll be done during the year. September 17th, we'll do our master fee schedule. There's lots of things that come to the end on September 17th with the final approval of everything. As you know, we've had two budget workshops to this point. We've had the first one on August 15th. We had the second budget workshop on that August 20th meeting as well. When we had those numbers, we did not have the official tax numbers, the truth and taxation numbers from the county. And so we received those on the 29th of this month, 9 days after our last budget workshop. We had to cancel our budget workshop until we got the numbers, and so we rescheduled it for today. And so we did receive those last Tuesday, and then we've been working on kind of getting this packet together for you based on that information. And so the first page you see here is based on the 76.5-cent tax rate that we proposed on that date. If you remember, we proposed that because at that time, with the estimates that we had and the information that we had from the county, we did not think we could go all the way to the 77-cent tax rate that we currently have today. I will tell you that two major things that have happened this year, they kind of tweaked our tax rate. The first thing is that Montgomery County, the Liberty County had been using everything in Montgomery County that's inside the city of Cleveland to be within the TERS, and that's not the case. We have property outside the TERS, and so we have now received that separation from Montgomery County that tells us what properties are in the TERS and what properties are outside the TERS. And so that has made a big change, okay? Also, another big change is the fact that they have now learned that instead of using 100% of the two TERS in their calculation of the TNT, they're only supposed to be using, when it talks about the TERS numbers, the percentage of the reimbursement. So for the Montgomery County TERS 2, they're only using 70% of that value instead of 100% of the value. Plus, we're also removing the ones that are not in the TERS. And then two, the one in Liberty County, we're using 60% of the value instead of 100% of the value. So you can see that those kind of made a big change, significant change within this, the way the TNT, or the truth and taxation numbers, in that spreadsheet is created and weighed. So with the new tax rate, with the new property values, with everything that's included in the TNT, you'll see that if we were to use the 76.5, that would generate $304,837 more in property taxes this year than what we have, or next year than what we have currently with this year, which is a 6.97% increase. Now, this is not just on your general fund. This is on, or the M&O side. This is all of it. So that's that full 77 cents. It also says in the last sentence there that the new property that has been added contributes to $285,019 of that 304. When you go down to your property tax rate comparison, again, the proposed property tax rate that we did on August 20th was 76.5. The no new revenue tax rate that we have now officially have is 75.7288. As you remember last time, our no new revenue was actually higher than what our tax rate was being proposed. With all the changes that we see, that lowers that number quite a bit. So we are actually a little bit above the no new tax rate. You can go down and see that the no new M&O rate is 37 cents. And then your voter approval tax rate. So this is the rate that you can go up to without having to go to the voters that would generate 3.5% more revenue in your M&O side than you're currently having. That is 89.6435. Okay, so that's a significant increase. So we have plenty of room. And then your debt rate is at 40.8839. That 40.8839 is supposed to generate $2.5 million for our debt service. And you see that at the very bottom of the page. Okay, what we are offering, or what with this 76.5, your M&O rate would be 35.6161. Okay, and again, the public hearing tax rate that we're going to have is going to be on the 17th before or during our council meeting. If you'll turn to the next page, you'll see that 10-year history. And when you look at it, you can see that at the very bottom of the list there, those charts, is the proposed 2025 tax rate, which is, again, 35.6161 for the general fund and 40.8839 for the debt service, for a total of 76.5. On the chart on the bottom, you'll see the red and the blue bars there. Again, as we discussed in the past, you continue to see that red there since 22 is going down, correct? That is your general fund dollar. That's the general fund revenue. Your blue is your debt service, and you see it's getting bigger, but your total tax is kind of, for the last 2 years, it kind of stayed flat. 23, it did go down. And you can look at the top here and see where those numbers are. So in 15 and 16, we were at 78 cents. Then we had 4 years at 77, then went to 76, 75.5, 71.5, and then last year we went back up to 77. What I like to show you is if you look at the general fund column, you can see that back in 2015, the M&O was $53.95, almost 54 cents for M&O. Today, that number is $35.61.61 if we use the 76.5. That's a significant decrease in actual revenue being generated on the M&O side. The highest year that we had was in 2017, and that was 56.80 for your M&O, and at that year we had a 20.4320 tax rate for your debt service. Now, I will tell you that one of our goals that we're hoping to do in the future, because we're going to continue to see this decrease, and so as you all know, the state law allows us to go 3.5% revenue increase without having to go to the voters. Well, I think all of us, if we're going to stay here, will not be able to go to that 90-cent tax rate. So I don't think we have to worry about the 3.5% increase on the revenue side, right? But we've got to be able to, it's not getting any cheaper to operate the city, and as our city continues to grow and we continue to have things, it gets more and more expensive. You all know the inflation continues to rise. And so we're going to have to work on getting that debt service and that M&O service rate balanced. And of course, it's going to change, because if we continue to make payment towards the TERS out of the debt, that number is going to continue to increase as that payment continues to increase and as those developments continue to increase. We should see a decrease this year because of taking out the Montgomery County, the properties that were not in the TERS, having that. So we actually have not made the payment. We've actually talked to Richard, and we're not going to make that TERS payment this year until he gets that calculated and corrected so that we can hopefully reduce that. Now, again, that all goes into the debt service, so it can only be used for future debt service, okay? But some other things that we are hoping to do is we got the automatic meters that we are working with Amoresco to install. And so that'll hopefully capture more of our water usage, and so we can collect more funds on those. We also, we've talked about, as have increased our the 10% again on your water and sewer rates. And so hopefully, as we continue to move forward, as we're able to get more recapture back from the automatic meters, and we're able to get the more revenue, we're hopefully to be able to use some of our water and sewer debt service, take it from the debt service side and put it in the water and sewer side, so the water and sewer is able to pay for that debt going forward. And so hopefully would again give us a little bit more of a gap, so that hopefully we can increase the M&O side. Obviously not up to the 99, but if we were to keep that 77 flat, then we would be able, if we reduce some of the debt by moving it to water and sewer, then we would be able to have a little bit of a gap that we could then fill in with our M&O to be able to have that opportunity. Because as you see, we're on a steady decline every year. And so we've got to have, if that continues, it's just going to get harder and harder to find that balance in the future. Our current payment this year for water and sewer to debt is $623,525. So if we could take some or all of that and move it over to water and sewer in the future, that would be able to help us. If you turn to the next page, you'll see the next 3 pages are the revenue pages for the general fund. And this is where you're going to see the effects of the 76.5. And so you'll see on that very first line, the current taxes, you'll see that the 76.5 would generate $3,027,264, which would be 3.182264 for all of your taxes collected on the M&O side. Okay, if you'll turn to 2 pages back, you'll see at the bottom of that page that this would generate a total revenues for the city at $12,017,934, which is actually a $5,135 increase over what was presented in your balanced budget during the August 15th workshop. So that would give us, good news is we're not having to go back to the drawing board and make a whole lot of cuts, okay? But this exercise that we had to go through, now what can we do with that extra funding? And so, as you'll see here, if we keep it at 76.5 as proposed, then it would be the 5,135. What I would like for the council to consider is to consider keeping it at that 77-cent rate and keeping it flat, and hopefully we can maintain and keep that going forward. If we were to do that, you'll see that that would generate $335,411 more than what we collected last year, and it's a 7.67 increase, and you'll see that it's a $286,881 coming from new property on the tax roll. The voter approval tax rate, again, you'll see is 89.6435. Okay, so 77 is still well below the voter approval rate. And of course, your debt rate continues to stay the same as well. This would generate a M&O rate of 36.1161 on top of your 40.8839 debt rate to get your 77 cents. If you'll turn the page to the next page, you'll see what that would look like in our history chart. Again, it would show at the very bottom your proposed 2025. We continue to stay at 77 cents. And again, you see that there's still that steady decrease on the M&O side at the bottom of the chart below. On the revenue side, so your next three pages, the first page on the top, if we did the 77 cents, that would bring in $3,065,078. Total property taxes of $3.22 million and some change for that, which, if you turn two more pages, would generate $12,055,748, which is an increase over the presented balance budget of $42,949. Okay. So, any questions on this? Does that understand all that? So, one of the reasons your debt has increased is because we have moved the TERS payment from M&O, which is your maintenance and operation, to the debt service. This is something that we discovered this year and was able to get the law and legislation that allows us to do that, and so we are putting that into the debt service, which has provided that increase. But it also has almost provided a restriction on the M&O side, because that has increased, and if we keep it at that 77, then that's just going to, because the debt service increased 6 cents, it's squashing your M&O at 6 cents if you keep it at the 77% rate. Okay. The next page, you'll see it says recommended additional funding plan. And so what I'd like to go over with you tonight is 3 phases. So what can we do if we kept it at 76.5? What is an option for us to do if we were to do the 77 cent? And then also, as I was able to share last Thursday in my update, that we have got confirmation from the county and from Judge Knight that our $200,000 reimbursement for fire next year has been put into their budget. Now, just like us, we have to actually approve that budget, so the commissioners have to actually approve that budget later this month. And so, but as of right now, that is in the budget for us to get $200,000. Now, my idea is, what I would recommend is that we go ahead and budget for the $200,000, make that change into the thing, and then budget to spend that $200,000 contingent on us actually getting the agreement. So don't, and we've already talked to the department heads and everything. They know that if it gets put in there as a contingency, we would not spend any of that money until we actually have an agreement in place with the county, knowing that that $200,000 is coming in. But once that is in place, then we could spend that $200,000. But I also am trying not to spend a whole lot of money on reoccurring. So it's a lot, mostly is being funded one-time projects in case the next year we don't get an agreement again. So that's kind of the idea. We do have one personnel cost. We'll get to that in a little bit as we go through here. So the way the chart kind of works is your first phase is that first line, 76.5 cents. It provides a $5,135 increase to what we currently have as the balanced budget, giving you the $5,135 available to use. I am proposing, and you'll see in a minute, we'll go over all this, but the personnel, it's an increase of $29.29 for some personnel changes that were requested. And then $2,000 going towards a supplemental item that was requested, utilizing $4,929. That would leave us $206 in the budget, either to go back towards the water and sewer fund transfer for reducing that, or if we were to do the 77 cent, it would go towards that increased funding. The next line down is 77 cent rate. If we did that, that would be an additional $37,814 increase, making $42,949 total available. Our personnel, we are adding another personnel item there for $37,947. That was taking all that extra money, which gives us a remaining $73. And then the fire reimbursement would be an additional $200,000, making $242,949 available. Personnel, it'd be an additional $32,292, which is a total of $73,168 for personnel, and then $165,000 in increased supplemental funding, which is a total of $167,003, which is a total of $240,171 is being proposed if we do all three, and that would leave us $2,778 that then could be used to reduce the transfer from water and sewer to the general fund. Okay? Everybody understand that? Okay. So what we're going to do now is the personnel request as well as the supplemental request. The first thing we're going to do is go through personnel. You'll see a little chart on the top as well as the very bottom of the next page. And so it shows you that the green items is what's being recommended to be done and included in the 76.5 budget. The blue is those items that are being proposed for the 77-cent tax budget, and then the red items are those things that are being recommended and proposed for the $200,000 item or budget from the fire. And so if you'll look down under Civic Center, we've got Civic Center, Court, Facility Services, and then the library that are being proposed during the 76.5 cent tax rate. The first one is the Civic Center, and this is it was requested to have a title change and a salary increase from the Tourism and Marketing Director to the Civic Center Director. What I am proposing at this time is to change it to the Civic Center Director title. No salary increase at this time, but the idea is, as we are going to be doing the compensation study next year, that when we do that, that position will have the correct title, correct job description, so that when we do that compensation study, it would be weighted correctly on what that position actually does. And so to go ahead and do the job description and do the title change, so that can be implemented at this time. The next one is Court. It was requested to change the municipal court clerk to municipal court administrator, and so this one I am recommending that we approve the title change, and instead of they requested a $25.52 an hour rate, I am recommending that we do $25.38, which is $2 increase. And the reason for that is when this position was filled and given to this employee, they had a classification that basically said that because she did not have her Clerk 1, Court Administrator 1 certification, that once she achieved that, then she would get a $2 an hour raise. That was a little over 2 years ago. She received that certification in July, and so now that we're budgeting for that $2 an hour increase to honor what she was told and given when she was hired for that position. The next one is Facility Services, and so currently we have 2 part-time positions that are available, that are open. We've got the Maintenance Worker 1 and we got a Maintenance Worker 2 position. These are positions that Ashley has had a challenge keeping filled because they are part-time positions. And so what she is asking for is to combine that 1 and 2 part-time position into 1 full-time position and make it a Maintenance Worker 2. So right now we have the supervisor over that facility maintenance division, and then we have the rest of the employees are all part-time. This would give that number 2 person, that facility maintenance worker 2, be a full-time, and it's also going to be that number 2 that's going to help when they're absent, or they would help with that leadership of those of that crew. And so that actually shows a savings even though we are adding, I mean, you're going from two 29-hour positions to a 40-hour position, and including benefits. But because you're giving up, 29 hours, or 19 hours, I guess, it actually kind of offsets as a reduction of about $1,200 for the year. Another thing that shows up in this is our TMRS rates did come in, and they've been reduced. And so you really see that in the next page under the library. You see that it's been requested to change the Access Service Clerk 1, the Access Service Clerk 2 position to a Library Clerk 1 and a Library Clerk 2. Initially, those changes were going to amount to a $41.60-something a year increase. But due to the TMRS rates that we have received, it's actually going to be a reduction of a little less than $600 a year to do those. And so at the bottom of this, you'll see the chart again. So with the base, you're looking at a 76.5 tax rate. The changes total that we just went over totals a $2,928.76 a year increase for those. Underneath the 77, we are proposing one change. That's under admin. This is for, the request was for changing the HR administrative assistant, which is part-time. And so currently we have 1.5 employees in HR for 130 employees. Typically you have one full-time employee for every 100. So we're behind on having that second full-time. And so what is being proposed is kind of a working together with finance and HR and making a full-time payroll HR administrator position. And so this person would take on payroll and continue to do the HR administrator, and that would be a full-time position. And you see that change generates about $38,000 a year roughly. And so this would also, our current, I just draw a blank on title, Tiffany's position, she currently does all the payroll. So that would be taken away from her and given to this new person, or it's converting that Felicity's position into a full-time position, and then Tiffany then would be able to assist more in finance. You got to remember, right now with our whole city, we've got 2.5 employees in finance, and so we're combining those two part-time really and making a full-time and allowing that to help with that. And so that would help finance. It would also help HR. Both of those departments assist with the whole city in the operation. So that would be the one change that you see on the 77 cent. And then we also have one change that we're requesting under the fire contingency plan, and that is under the fire department. And so it was requested to have a full-time fire administrative assistant, which they currently do not have an administrative assistant at all in the fire department. And so what is being recommended is that we hire a 29-hour part-time administrative assistant, which totals about $32,292 a year. And this would be a great way to get somebody in to help them out, which they greatly need. And then if this funding continues on, this is something that we can look in the future to increase it, because as you can see, it's about a $60,000 a year full-time salary to do that. And so, again, if you look at the next page, so the base is $2,900. Then we go to the blue, that's an additional $38,000, and then with the fire admin, it generates a little over another almost $33,000 for a total of $73,168.14 for these salary increases. These are all the positions that were requested, the reclassifications and new positions, and so you see them all listed there. They were in your book. We had the first workshop, we had discussed that at that point. Since we didn't have any money available, we had to make a lot of cuts, that nothing was being considered, had been considered at that time. Since then, you can see what we are recommending for those 3 steps. If you go to the next page, you'll get to the last section that you have here, and it's the recommended additional supplemental funding. And so again, we have the same format, 76.5 cents. Those items that are being recommended are green, 77 is blue, and then the fire is in red. If you turn to your second page, about halfway down under Public Works, the Street Department, you'll see that it was requested to have $2,500 additional funding in the overtime line item. What we are proposing is $2,000, and that's part of that initial base of the 76.5. Under the blue, that whole dollar amount under the 77 cents is being taken up by that one personnel change in the administration. And then under the red, you'll see several items that we'll go through real quick, and that is also again contingent on the funding from the fire. But you've got $165,000 worth of items that were able to be funded. If you look on the far right column, you'll see items in black. Okay, all those items that are listed in black are items that have already been funded in the general fund. Okay, so those were in the base budget, the proposed budget that we had that was balanced at the very beginning. Those are already funded. I will tell you also, just to let you know, that this is a list of all of the supplementals that were requested. And so if you remember in your budget packet, under each section, you have a little section. Well, we combine them all into one to make it easier for today to look at. But I will tell you also, we kind of talked about this at the first meeting, I believe, is that a lot of the supplementals that were requested were actually able to be funded in their base budget under the general fund. So we took it out of a supplemental altogether. And so basically what that is when the department heads are working on their budget, if they can fund items by moving money around, they can't touch salaries, but all the other line items within their budget, they can move money up and down and around to meet their needs. And so with that movement that they were able to do, they were able to fund a lot of supplementals just by doing that. And so those were taken out. And so this list that you see here is all of the supplementals that did not get funded in their base budget, but that remain supplementals to be added during the budget process. And again, the ones that are in black on the right side are the ones that have been funded and the amounts that they have been funded at this time. If you'll go to, just go down to the Civic Center, Community Center, the first red item that's going to be contingent on the firing is computer equipment software. This is for the security cameras in this building. We do have security cameras already, and this is just the programming that allows them to be on the same system that we have for the public, for the police department and for fire department, that are able to be seen in dispatch, and that Ashley and whoever else needs to would be able to pull them up on their phones to be able to monitor if something's going on from their house, which they are not able to do right now. And so this allows them to integrate into our current system that we're trying to get everybody into. One of the things that every department asked for this year almost is security cameras, because we just don't have them in a lot of our facilities. And so that's one of the things that we are asking. She asked for additional cameras at this facility, but that is not included. All that's included in this request is just the program that gets it to where it can be shared with dispatch and to get it on the same system that the rest of the city's on. If you go to the next page, you'll see under information technology, which has got a lot of projects throughout the city. The first line item there is the Granicus Agenda Management System, or software system. This is an agenda management system, okay? And so this would be something that could be utilized by all of our city. And so it allows the department heads to enter their agenda information, for whether it's an EDC meeting, a Parks Board meeting, Airport Board meeting, council meeting, whatever, that could be entered at their desktop into the system, and then can go through the approval process, and then the city secretary, at the end of the day, can just hit, create the agenda, and it'll format it all for it and do all that, instead of right now, everything is done manually. They're manually typing everything up. They're copying it, sending it over, or emailing it over, and they're printing it out. Then we have to print all those. We scan them in, scan all the council packets so we can make an electronic diversion, and then we're printing them and sending them out. So we're doing it the old-fashioned way. The other good thing about this is that it works with our new AV system that's being installed today. So if you get a chance, sometime this week, I would recommend stopping by City Hall and just taking a look at the work that they're doing. It's going to be a really nice system. But one of the things it does is it allows you, if you've seen other cities that probably have this software, you can, if you want to see a specific agenda item, you can click on that agenda item and it'll take you straight to that recording, and all you have to do is watch that one little piece instead of having to watch the whole meeting. So you can go down and see which ones you want, and it'll tag it and show you that one item, or you can watch the whole meeting. But that it works hand in hand with the new system we're getting to be able to do that, so that it's better for for our citizens that are wanting to go and see the meeting. Now that we're getting that updated and they want to have the good sound and good video quality, we need to have a good agenda system to go with it as well. And so that's what that one's for. The next one, I'm sure you all know what Office 365 is. We do not have that at the city. We need it greatly. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that we need really bad, but just weren't able to fund. And so this would be one of those items that's a one-time expense that we would be able to fund, and this would bring everybody in the city up to Office 365, which gives us, you all know, you probably use it at home and at your own businesses, gives you a lot more flexibility, a lot more opportunity, a lot more resources to use within your programming there. The next two items is Encode 10. That's our finance management system. And so Encode 10 would be bringing both our finance and the next one down is our court, bringing those up to the Encode 10. I can't remember, what Encode are we on now? We're on 9. So, but it's fairly old. 10's been around for quite a while. And so they're all used to working with Encode 10, and so you go Encode 9, like, oh, we gotta go find somebody that knows how to work that system. So it is a challenge. This would bring up those two systems. Again, something we have needed for a long time, just haven't been able to fund. So this would be something, one of those one-time expenditures that we would be able to fund this year if we were to do this. Number 8 in this category is two cash registers for the library. That was requested from the library, and so this gives them some updated cash registers because they have a lot of issues with the current cash registers. It doesn't do the programming that they need, and so they're always trying to find workarounds for those cash registers, and so this would bring them up to date on all that. There are some items below that for the library. Some of that we're still working on. Hopefully we're going to be able to get those funded through some of this was requested, but then we had a nice little visit from Barrow that destroyed some of these with all the electrical outages and different things, and so we're hoping that we can get some of these funded through those funds with that. Then you go down to the police department. One of the things that was funded was our Exxon Exion system. Okay, and this is your vest cameras, it's your dash cameras, that system that we have. Ours is up, and so we need to replace it. And so we funded the $47,000 in our base budget to replace that system. Last week, we were informed, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, we were informed by them that they have a warranty program that is $16,000. That basically allows us to have a 5-year warranty, that anything goes wrong with that system, they'll replace it in the first 5 years. At 5 years, they would do a total equipment replacement, and then you have an opportunity to buy another extended warranty for 5 years on that new equipment if you wanted to at that time. So after 5 years, you get all brand new equipment to go for that. So they did tell us that if we don't fund that this year, that we have 1 year to do that, and so we could put that in next year's budget if we don't get it this year. But I'm hoping that we can get all this done, and we can go ahead and approve that and get that warranty taken care of now. And so The total for that would be $63,000. $16,000 is the additional cost for that warranty. Turning to the next page, I'll give it a shot, Chief. You'll see under the fire department, there is the piston intake valves for the trucks. And so it's $11,000, and we are asking to fund that. And basically this allows the fire trucks to connect to your fire hydrants on the big valve opening instead of the small one, which gives you more pressure. You don't have to cut the motor off or the engine off and all the pumps off to be able to do that, and gives you more constant. So it's better service, better firefighting services and opportunities for our fire department. Do okay? Okay. I was like, what is a piston? I couldn't remember today. I was like, I don't remember what this one is. And then the last one on there is we do need to replace several of our self-contained breathing apparatuses. And so that's a $60,000 item for that. And so you'll see that listed there. And then under water production, they are asking for a new AC unit to cool the MCC control panel. And so that would be an additional $15,000. You see at the bottom there that all of these, the 2,000 with the 6.5, and then the $200,000 increase from the red, would give us a total of $167,000, $167 and $3 for funding of supplementals that we weren't able to fund previously. And as you can see, these are all items that are needed at this time. And so I will tell you that it was brought up earlier, what is our fund balance that we currently have? And our current fund balance in our general fund is roughly 7.7 million. Our rough estimate of our expenditures on our general fund is about 12 million. We are required to keep 25% in our reserves, which is roughly $3 million for the general fund. So having 7.7 is about 65%. So we've got a healthy fund balance. Okay, and we have been, as you're aware, we've used it last year. We're using it this year to utilize some of that fund balance on different one-time purchases. But you also have to save some of that money because as we had a hurricane earlier this year, and we're not out yet, you have some expense. There's times that you may have to spend a whole lot of money on getting you through some of those storms. Yes, if it's a significant storm, we should get funding from the federal government, but that may take years to get all that money. So we've got to have that money to support it. So you don't want to, if you don't have to, you don't want to get into that 25%. So having a healthy fund balance is, if you remember the last time the auditor presented to us, he talked about that. That's one of the things that one of the positives that we have for our city is that we do have a nice, healthy fund balance. So any questions on any of this? They are in there. It's just the warranty. Yeah, it's just the 16,000 warranty that's in there. We have a year if we need to on that, but we're getting units. That's in the base budget. That 47,000 for the correct. Right. Yep. So I know it's a little confusing, but and again, you've got three options that we've discussed. What I would recommend, and I'm proposing, is that we keep the 77-cent tax rate that we've had. Now that we've actually got the numbers, we were hoping to be able to do that earlier, but our initial numbers didn't allow us to go to the 77. Now that we know that we can go all the way up to almost 90, I would suggest and propose that we keep it at the 77. Hopefully we can do this for several years, keep it at the 77-cent rate. And then also I recommend that we go ahead and budget the $200,000 from the county for reimbursement. Go ahead and do all these projects being contingent, and hopefully into this month, first part of next month, we'll get that agreement from the county. Hopefully, it'll be something that we can agree to, and then we can go ahead and move forward on purchasing these items. Yeah, so we did have frozen positions. Courts has one, PD has two, and then we've got one in community development that have been frozen, that was frozen in the base. And so the kind of the direction that we had received during the budget workshop was to look at new positions, opportunities, and so that's kind of the way that I went. So we did not look at the frozen positions at this time. And remember that the court one is the warrant officer, that is, has been empty for year and a half. It's been quite a while. That one's been frozen, and then the two positions in PD. Now, the good news is with the salary adjustments, hopefully we'll get a full police department real quick because of the new salaries that we have in here with our longevity adjustments and everything that we have included in the base budget. But that's one of the things that we can always consider if he has positions that remain open for a little bit, because it takes a little while to go through the whole process to get them all hired. He may have some funding available that we can then say, okay, we're going to unfreeze this position because he's got the money available, and go ahead and hire those positions at that time. And then on the community development position, that position is that third position that we had when we combined the two department heads, and so we funded it 100% with community development, okay? Because we didn't know at this point, we weren't sure if it was going to be EDC, community development, or a split position again. So we funded 100% of that on the community development side if it was going to be on that. And of course, that's what was frozen, frozen for 6 months on that. The idea is that if it's a split position or if it's a EDC 100% position, then EDC has the funds available that we could always match it with the EDC funds or go ahead and fully fund it with the EDC funds. So that was kind of the thinking behind that position as well. Correct. I mean, that is the plan. It's been going on for a long time, where we transfer money from water sewer over to help balance that fund. This is a common practice with most municipalities. They're transferring from the water and sewer fund over to or your enterprise funds that are making money. So a lot of cities, for example, like Liberty, has a electric department, and those generate a lot of revenue, just like the water and sewer does, and so they transfer money from that to help offset their budget. does both from water, sewer, and electric? Right. Now, hopefully, we can maybe reduce that or keep it the same, depending on how that, the city grows. Um, But, Pinewood Trails Water Well. No. It will be this, sometime this month. I do know that their normal meetings are the second and fourth Tuesday. And so I've, I've been watching the agendas. They did have a special call meeting today, but it was not on the budget. So I would like to be able to go to that meeting when they're having that meeting. And maybe some of y'all might join or whatever, just to be able to, you know, and if they approve it, say thank you. Right. Correct. We'll put in the budget, it'll be contingent on the funding, and so all these projects, they're all aware of which ones are on there, that we're not gonna spend the money on these projects until it gets approved. The judge says the agreements are ready, so I'm assuming that our proposed, agreements, have not been looked at. It would be the same one as last year, just a dollar amount that'd be different, but we haven't seen it, so, hopefully as soon as it gets approved, they'll send it to us, and then we can make that determination on how we wanna move forward, you know, and so, but I think it's gonna be one of those things that I don't know that we're gonna get, what we had asked for, the 2, 4, 6, and then base it on the previous 3 years after that. I think it's gonna be one of these things that we're gonna have to continue to fight every year to continue to get funding and to get an increase. But as you all are aware, I mean, $200,000 goes a lot further than zero that we got this year. So under 512302 2090. So this is where we are paying our third party for all of our building inspections and everything. And so the request came in because we were looking at, when the department, and Emilio's here, he can address it too, but when they were looking at the history for this year, we had exceeded the 100,000, and looking at we're going to be spending 200,000 this year. But you got to remember, this year we did not have code enforcement, our staff, and so we contracted with our third-party consultant to do code enforcement as well. So it actually increased it by about $50,000 for it alone, just for code enforcement. But we were able to offset that because we didn't have the salary, so we kind of offset each other. We also, 2 months ago, I guess, we contracted with TCG to do our code enforcement instead of Safe Build, which we already have a contract with them to do our substandard structures. And so that cost with them was much lower than what we were paying for Safe Build for the same services. And so that helped us with the cost, so we lowered it to do that. And so between both of those, we're hoping that expenditure, we did still budget the full amount for code enforcement in case we can hire somebody for code enforcement. So again, if we can't, and we'll just have to use that. We can't move money from salaries to that, but as long as they offset at the bottom, that, you know, maybe $50,000 over here, but we're $50,000 less here, then we're at the bottom. At the end of the day, as long as we don't go over, we're good. Right, and as you are aware, I mean, we are spending and doing a lot more projects now than we have in the last several years with EDC, which is a good thing. We've got a board that is trying to utilize some of those funds to better the city. And so this is kind of what they requested. If you remember, on the August 20th meeting, we actually held our first reading of all the projects that are being recommended for EDC, and so we will have that second reading of the EDC projects coming on the 17th of this month as part of all that budget stuff that we have to take care of. But these are all projects. These line items have all been through, you know, we went through, I believe we started in May or June, going through the budget funds and the requests with EDC. We met for several months. Then we had having workshops with them. They made the recommendation for approving the projects and the expenditures in each of these funds, and then that was brought to council as part of this process. And so now we are doing the first and second readings of the projects for those funds. But as part of the budget process, now the EDC budget has approved those. It comes as a recommendation from EDC, and now the city council takes that as part of their budget and considers those as well.
can address incentives, I guess, kind of broadly. One is for the business improvement grant, previously the facade improvement grant. Because of the demand and interest for that program, that's why it was increased, because we're anticipating a greater interest in that this year, and even targeting specific areas for redevelopment, hopefully marketing the program better, working with developers and business owners as they come in for, or even prior to, I guess, submitting for permits and things like that, trying to be proactive with that tool and expanding the use and efficacy of that specific tool. At the previous EDC meeting, I guess just a few weeks ago, we talked through changes to that grant policy, kind of informally, but next month we'll bring those changes in a more formal kind of setting and package. So that's on the business improvement grant. On the other grant line item, the grant program there, it is still generic. We're still researching and kind of considering and weighing the pros and cons of formalizing and adopting an incentive policy, or keeping it open and flexible, kind of to move at the speed of business in terms of how we can respond aggressively to corporations or other entities that are seeking to locate and site a business or industry prospect in Cleveland. We've been working a lot with the Greater Houston Partnership recently, enhancing that relationship in terms of increasing our exposure and our profile as a place for industrial site selection and attraction. So, I'm hesitant to adopt the kind of a policy formally that kind of pigeonholes us, as opposed to something that it's a little more broad and flexible that we can tweak based on whoever it is that we're trying to work with. Well, in the budget, I wouldn't say that there's a specific city that we've modeled after or that we're compared to. I think this is just kind of professional recommendations on where we might need to be in terms of the allocation, so that we could do some things without having to do a budget amendment and come back, where that adds time to a process.
If you'll remember, both of those grant items have fluctuated quite a bit over all the different workshops that we've had on the budget with the EDC. Those line items increase, decrease, increase, and we're settled on this. And again, just like in previous years, if these items are not spent, so if we don't have the funds, have the request and don't spend the money on these grant opportunities, it doesn't mean the money goes away. It just means the money goes back to the fund reserves that can be used in additional years in the future. So you're not losing any, but having it available helps with businesses to be able to move faster and quickly, instead of having to go through budget amendments and so forth. Having that money set aside that you could use to help in that recruitment. Creighton, I think that's part of what the EDC's thought behind this is that we haven't spent the money in a long time. We don't want to hold anything up, and so now that we're doing these new programs, these new incentives, if it gets used, great. We've got the monies that we haven't used in the past that we could utilize now. If it doesn't get used, then it goes back in the reserves, and maybe we tweak it. So if it was, if we have $100,000 this year for grants, and we only use 50, then maybe we reduce it to 50 or 75 next year, depending on the use and the interest. Maybe it's a whole lot more, so maybe we do some other tweaking, and maybe it needs to be 150,000 instead of the 100,000. But that's something, because these are new incentives that we're trying to increase economic development and work with not only our current businesses that are here that are wanting to expand, but also those that are wanting to come here. We're constantly trying to get new businesses here. That's something that we greatly need, especially industry. And industry, and that's kind of going back to this too, when you start working with an industry to come, it's going to take a lot of money and incentives to be able to get them here. But they're also going to turn around and they're going to invest a huge amount and create a lot of jobs for our citizens when they come to Cleveland. to that point, I mean, that's one of the things that you see in the EDC budget this year that has been recommended from EDC is the fact that not only do we have these grant opportunities and incentive opportunities, but we also are doing some like retail, you know, to where we can try to get some recruitment in and some assistance, get the resources and tools that we need. We've got some industry marketing studies and some assistance for recruiting industry to come here. We're spending, you know, we're doing the gateway and the master plan signing for that. We're doing the rebranding. All these things are working together, but it just started the last 6 months, and it takes time to get through all this, but you got to have the funding here to be able to work with that. To Councilman's point, you know, having that to be able to build on it. We're just now starting. We got a lot of work to do to get us through that and through the. When we're competing against Dayton and Liberty and Shepherd and Livingston, you know, Porter and so forth, I mean.
And that one's more of a last mile facility, so there's a lot more points in like the logistics nodes before that, you know, on a larger macro scale than just the last point of distribution. And that's where we can kind of, that can be our niche. Well, I would just say.
We are
so
currently
obvious.
purchasing, yes. Yeah, we are currently in a bond payment for, or I guess it's a loan. But for the pumper truck, it's a loan that we took out, for the ladder truck, wasn't it? The ladder truck. The ladder truck, we took out $1.3 million for that. So that is one that we are, and that's typically how a lot of cities will do is they'll take bonds or loans out for those. And I know he has got it, Sean has applied for a grant for a pumper truck to be replaced, and we're hoping that we can get that grant funding and then be able to utilize that as well. So again, taking advantage of all those opportunities that we can. Again, the EDC budget is coming as a recommendation, approved budget request from the EDC to the council to be a part of the budget. And so it is their recommendation, it is their request for that. And so we have had numerous public meetings, we've had public opportunities. Again, we've had one public reading, we're gonna have another second reading on that to be able to address it. So not only does EDC have their own public opportunity, but then it's a part of the whole city budget where you have opportunities for people to come and speak as well. And so, but again, as you said, it is up to the council. And so, to finally do it, but, they can, and if that's something the council wants to overall vote together and do, that it's something that can be considered. But this is coming as their recommendation, their request for the budget as the EDC board. So I need some direction because our next meeting, the next meeting is the 17th of this month. So in 2 weeks, we will be presenting the budget. And so, do we want to go ahead and do the 76.5, the 77, and do we want to include the 200? I mean, yeah, we have had 78 in the past. So, so we want to proceed with the 77 cent recommendation and budgeting the 200,000 contingent on it getting approved and passed. Yes. Okay, any other direction or?